Welcome everybody to Wine Roots. I'm so happy because I was just talking to Hannah that this is the sixth episode and it's been a long way, 6 months now.
Yeah.
And this great invitation with Hannah. Can you introduce yourself a little bit? What's your full name? Where you're from? What you do in your role at your job?
Sure. I am, first of all, thank you for having me. Happy to be here on the sixth episode. Congratulations on
Thank
6
you.
months.
Thank you. Yeah.
My name's Hannah Fetzer. I grew up in North Carolina on the East Coast.
Okay.
And I wasn't really exposed to the wine, or not even just the wine industry, any agriculture there. I lived in the suburbs, and my parents weren't from agriculture, but I took a horticulture class in high school. So that kind of set me on the path of agriculture. I didn't even know that was a job beforehand. So then I took 2 more horticulture classes, some food science classes, some animal science classes even. I joined the FFA, and I knew I wanted to go to school. So I went to school at NC State. Go Pack. go back.
Like this?
Yeah, like a dog,
wolf
pack.
pack.
Wolf pack,
Nice.
And so I studied horticulture there, got my degree, and
But you found that out in high school first? Horticulture was in high school?
Yeah, and I was actually even exposed to viticulture in high school too. The wine and grape industry is kind of small in North Carolina, but we learned in one of my first horticulture classes in high school about different parts of horticulture. So there's arboriculture, which is trees, and then viticulture, which is wine.
Oh, okay.
There's others I don't remember off the top of my head.
So since high school, you've been having this idea, I like plants, so I'm gonna go through for the vineyard part, or you just want to be outside working with plants, trees, conservation?
I think at the time it was definitely I just want to be outside, and it's it's a pretty unusual career path. I really didn't know what I wanted to do before I got exposed to it. So once I found horticulture, I really dug in. I actually remember seeing that word viticulture and being oh, I could grow grapes. That thought occurred to me. I don't think it was very fresh or strong in my mind, but I do remember having that thought.
You have the flashback?
Sitting, I'm looking at this piece of paper that says the word
since
viticulture.
That moment, my life changed forever.
Exactly. I'm all the way on the other side of the country in California.
Because I gotta ask you this question, Hannah. Ever since I know you, I've been wanted to ask you this question.
Okay.
So
saved it for the podcast.
It's Hannah Fetzer. Right?
Yeah.
So we know Fetzer is the last name in the wine industry.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
So I thought you are you related to the Fetzer family?
As far as I know, I'm not.
No? Okay.
My parents actually lived in the Bay Area when in the 90s, before they even had me. Okay. They actually went up. Fetzer had a tasting room at the time, and so they went up there because they had heard all about it, and it's maybe 2 hours north of the Bay because it's in Hopland. Yeah. But no, I have plenty of Fetzer t-shirts though, actually, because they bought them when they were there, but I don't think we're related because we're from the other side of the country.
So that's a pretty nice coincidence, right?
Yeah.
Even though probably you know about Fetzer's in your blood, wine, grapes, vineyards. I don't know.
Yeah, someone told me I should not obviously if someone asked me if I'm part of the family, I should say no, but don't immediately tell people because then maybe they'll assume that I know more than I do or something.
You shouldn't that's a great perk.
Yeah.
And
works out well.
You don't have to lie. You just don't have to say oh yeah, but I'm not from the family. No, you're Hannah Fetzer. That's your last name. And that's all.
Exactly.
And you work in the industry, and
I get the respect.
You have a lot of knowledge. You get your respect from your work.
Yeah.
And it's not that you're gonna get better opportunities because of your last name, but it's sure gonna work.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll work for them one day down the line. Although I heard they're changing their name, so
really?
The name recognition may not be there
so
anymore.
Now is your time to make Fetzer great again.
Exactly.
The last name.
Yeah, maybe it is.
Yeah.
Maybe it is.
Okay, so talk about North Carolina. So the wine industry there is more like import, right? Like outside wine.
Yeah, the good thing about being on the East Coast is that European wine is cheaper, but it's still expensive. We do grow some grapes for wine there, and we actually grow a lot of muscadine because that's like native to the area. It's like an American grape. It makes really, really sweet wine. The grapes themselves are kind of hard to eat actually because, well, when you buy a grape from the grocery store, it doesn't have seeds in it, right? But that's because we like bred it out. So the muscadines still have seeds in them, and their skin is really thick. Okay. And so, like, the first time I ate one, I didn't know this, but you're not even supposed to eat the skin. Like, that's how thick it is. Like, you put the whole grape in your mouth, and it's pretty big. It's like golf ball sized, maybe. Yeah.
I never seen this.
At least the one I had, yeah.
Wow.
And so you're supposed to, like, because you spit out the seeds as well, so you might as well spit out the skin. But yeah, so the wine industry there, and in the mountains, we do grow some wine, and I've been to a couple tasting rooms there, and it's pretty good. It's much harder too as well because the climate isn't dry like it is here.
Fun fact: when I started working in the vineyards, I've never seen like a cluster of the wine grape.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like the table grapes, big.
Yeah.
No seeds. And she's like a skinny like peel. Mm-hmm. And when I see how tiny they are, I was like, wow, it's like completely different.
Right. Yeah. And there's seeds in them too.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to spit those out.
And people for wine. It's better to have, depending on the style, like the thick of the peel and everything, the skin. Yeah. So, kind of, how's the life in the East Coast when you were growing up? Like, you have, like, going to the lakes, travel a little bit.
Yeah, it's a lot of that. I mean, where I lived, I was lucky because North Carolina is pretty unique. Or, I guess it's not unique to the East Coast, but I like to think it is. We have the Outer Banks, which is our beach area, and it's kind of its own little mini island. Okay. It's kind of separated from the shore a little bit. And then we have plenty of lakes and rivers, and then we also have these beautiful mountains, the Blue Ridge Parkway. So you can do a lot of stuff there. Yeah. Right now, because it's summertime, I think about it a lot, like how different the summer is there. Okay. Like the humidity, the like constant noise of cicadas, and but in the evenings you get like fireflies and stuff, and it doesn't cool down as much as it does here in the evenings. Okay. So it still kind of feels summery in the evening. Now don't get me wrong, I like the cold evenings here. No, but it makes me miss it. I'm like kind of nostalgic for like the sweaty, humid.
But even like late night, like 8 p.m.
Oh yeah, it's still humid. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. And definitely, I recently went to Austin, and like we got in at like 2 in the morning or something like that. And obviously Austin's different than North Carolina, but
it's like warmer, right?
It's still warm and humid, and we stepped out of the airport, and I was like,
just like home.
I forgot about how humid it is here. Right. Yeah. So.
And I have some friend from North Carolina. Actually, shout out to Mike Risk.
Mike Risk, yeah. He went to the same school as me.
Like this,
yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what about Myrtle Beach? I heard a lot of Myrtle Beach.
That is in South Carolina.
That's South Carolina.
And they're not as cool as North Carolina.
Not as cool as North Carolina.
In my humble opinion, sorry to any South
Carolina. A lot of people from North Carolina go to Myrtle Beach, right?
Oh yeah. Myrtle Beach, it's kind of like a spring break destination for sure. It's like there's different types of beaches. There's like really touristy towns, and like Myrtle Beach can get like that. Okay. Like there's a lot of like knick-knack shops and just tons of people on the beach. Okay. And then there's like smaller beach town, like what you might read, like if a book was set in like an East Coast beach town, there's smaller towns like that too.
Near houses, not a lot of people.
Yeah. And they have like tourist season of the year where it gets a little bit busier, but it's still not that busy. So Myrtle Beach it's really fun. Okay. And it's probably more fun when you're 21.
Okay, just like party.
Yeah, for sure. But everyone, since high school, people would go there for spring break.
There's like also like a family.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. There's lots of fun stuff to do there. Okay. So yeah, Myrtle Beach is fun. but I like Wilmington, or like I haven't actually been to Charleston, but that's also in South Carolina, and that's like more of like a historic. It's like more classic beach. But it's also more expensive, so there's trade-offs.
I always wanted to cover like all the coast from Florida to Boston, and also from Washington to California. I think because it's the same country, but it's completely opposite.
It really is. You can feel like you're in a different part of the earth. I feel like. No. I mean, you are obviously,
exactly.
but like in another world, even it's so different. Like just. And it's insane, like it's all one country too, so.
Pretty diverse.
Yeah, definitely.
And then also, well, you told me about this, but I can't forget, like you went to the University of North Carolina, what was your major?
Horticulture.
And right away?
Yeah.
Okay.
I stayed with it the whole time too. The cool thing about horticulture is it's a really small program, or at least my school's pretty huge. It was like, I think we had like 35,000 people or something. Okay. So it can get pretty big, but our program had like only 100 undergraduates in it. So you got to know the people really well. And a lot of times people would come in and they'd be like, oh, I don't want to do business. This is not my path. So they'd find horticulture and get stuck in with the group. So I made a lot of friends like that. But while I was there, I was looking for internships in 2019. And I found one in Lodi, in working with a winery for a 6-month-long internship. And I talked with my advisor, and she said I could graduate early, or I could take the semester off and do something. So that's kind of what I decided to do. Semester off, do an internship on the other side of the country in viticulture, because I wanted to learn more about it, but we used to have a class in viticulture, but it got discontinued. So I was like, well, the best way to learn is by doing
put your hands in the work.
Exactly.
So that was your first time in California?
I was born in Phoenix. So we would I took a few vacations when I was a little kid to San Diego. But I had never been to the Central Valley. Definitely never been to wine country.
Yeah, it was Lodi. Yeah, that's another. Yeah. That's another thing about we talk about like the U.S. how diverse and big it is, but then there's another full conversation about California.
Yes, really, you can travel an hour and it's insanely different.
Like even like the landscape. I remember going down I went to Santa Barbara at 101, and as soon as you cross the Bay Area, it's flat. It's the Central Coast, and it's like just ag. Yeah, and then just
lettuce all over, garlic,
and then you go to Paso Robles and mountains again. Wow. Yeah.
It's crazy.
And did you drove from North Carolina to? Yes.
Yeah. So, and the funny thing was, I applied for the internship and got it in 2019, and it was for the 2020 harvest season. So from June to December-ish of 2020. Yeah. So at the time, we did not know that COVID was coming and all this stuff. So I accepted it, and I was just waiting to hear back, and eventually they were like, yeah, we're still going to do an internship, middle of COVID, but we need you guys. So me and my mom, we drove out in like June, or I guess because I started in June, so it was like the end of May we drove.
You started in June. And at that time, most of it was like shelter, right?
Yeah. So I think because obviously June is only everyone says March is when the pandemic started. What I remember is everything was still shut down. Yeah. But I think people were starting to get sick of being shut down. Okay. So there's more people doing stuff, but it still wasn't the same. If you ate at a restaurant, it was all outdoor seating. Yeah. You're still wearing a mask every time you're inside. Anytime you get sick for anything, you have to quarantine. Even if it's not somehow I ended up getting mono during that internship. But it seemed initially, because I had a fever and all this stuff, it seemed like COVID. And the test would take so long to get the results back, too.
Oh, yeah, because it was not the fast, right?
And you had to go somewhere to do it. Yeah. So I had to take a week off because they thought I had COVID, and then I didn't. But then I was still really sick, so I had to take another week off.
And you were in Lodi?
Yes, yeah.
Wow, what experience.
I know, it was crazy.
And you make it through, look at it.
Yeah, I'm alive. Yeah.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you drove with your mom the whole country.
Yeah, it was kind of fun actually. I'd never done anything like that.
Uh-huh.
And it was also really weird because we did it over like 5 days, so 4 nights.
Yeah.
And you're like staying in hotels in the middle of the pandemic. Like all these, they would put like stickers on the door, I remember, so you knew like no one had been in there since it was clean, like all this sort of stuff. But it was really fun. Like we stopped in Nashville, we like drove through Texas and stayed in Arizona.
Were the highways pretty empty? Or it was
the house,
the highways? No, the highways.
Oh, the highways. Yeah, but I think those highways are normally pretty empty. Like there was definitely like semi trucks on there, but it was pretty empty the whole way.
You don't feel like you were driving like in the apocalypse?
No, not quite. Maybe in some parts of like New Mexico, maybe. But I think it would always feel like that because it's just like dry.
Hey, people
dusty.
from New Mexico,
I love you. It was beautiful. It was beautiful, but it can't like. There's not that many people driving on the road, so it definitely could feel like that. But yeah.
And what was your first impression with Lodi?
Well, I was actually staying in Stockton, which was a huge culture shift for me, I think, from where I grew up. Mm-hmm. But when I got to Lodi to start the job, it was very interesting because, like, you see pictures of vineyards, and you see, like, you always see, like, terraces, like, when you're, like, looking at pictures. And that's, like, European probably mostly is what I'm seeing. But so Lodi was so different. And I actually remember when we were driving up, I was driving up 99, and 99 is like a great example of like all the different types of agriculture that California has to offer. Yeah. It's still not even all of it, but you'll see like almond trees and like walnut trees. And I was seeing these things, and I remember in my head, I was like, these look like lollipop trees or something, because they were lower to the ground, like maybe 5 feet off the ground, and they had like round canopies. And it's crazy because I was driving here for an internship to work like in viticulture, in vines, and I didn't even recognize that those were vines along the side of the road. So I felt pretty silly when I realized that, but luckily no one had to tell me. I realized it myself, and I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. Yeah. So I was actually kind of nervous because I was like, I literally know nothing about grapes. Like that was my whole reason for doing the internship. Okay. But I think the company I worked for was like very welcoming, and like you kind of love and now that I have my own interns, I appreciate the fact that they don't know everything, because it gives me a chance to learn and know better. Exactly. And I remember how I was in that moment too, where I didn't know anything, and I really appreciated learning from people.
And that's just like different perspectives, right? Because I kind of feel like if you imagine like you've been working for 30 years, you can set up your way of thinking and your way to work. And having like new people out of college, like curious and with more ideas, you get to at least listen to them, because it might have a lot of change.
New ideas. And I think our viticulture team is pretty diverse in that aspect, because we are all from like all different places and have different backgrounds. And I think it's really interesting to hear. And like, I just like hearing everyone's different opinion, because the way we do it in North Carolina is going to be different than here, different than New York. And so, I really like, definitely hearing other people's opinions.
So it was after your internship when you realized that, man, I want to go back to California.
Yeah, so when I finished the internship, the other 2 interns that I was working with had already graduated college, so they were looking for jobs out here. And I still had 1 more semester to go, like a COVID semester though, so it was mostly online. But I wanted to come back, and I also wanted to try like North Coast winemaking or wine growing, because Napa and Sonoma are very different than Lodi and the Central Valley. And I knew that they were gonna like look at the vines differently. We want different production goals. So I wanted to kind of learn more about that, and there is a huge difference from being in both places, and they both serve good purposes. It's just different ones. So I applied for another internship, just in like Napa or Sonoma.
Okay. Now that you say that, when you see a picture of a vineyard, it's like Terrence and Italy. Have you seen the movie Pine Trap?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's based on Napa.
Right. Yeah. And the dad owns the winery.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's like a scene like taken in the movie of an airplane, and it's like vineyards, and it's Napa, and it's like I think it's a Silverado, and you can see like Atlas Peak. And you see like the mountain, and it's like the vineyards.
Wait, you could tell that just by looking at it?
I think so. That's
why. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and watch.
Because I used to live in Napa, so I drove through Silverado.
Yeah.
And I like that movie a lot.
Yeah.
So for me, it kind of looked like the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know another friend of us, actually, shout out to Elias.
Oh, hey, what's up?
He told me that over there, like in Central Coast and Central Valley, that it's flat, and it's like you see vines producing plus 5 tons.
A lot, yeah.
So another thing that I learned, it's you're the viticulturist. So if I get something wrong, you need to correct me.
Okay, I'm sure you got it.
So if you bind your acre are producing a lot, that's mean that next year you gotta put a lot into the vine, like nitrogen, zinc, like all the nutrients, because all those nutrients that is like producing, you're taking away.
Yep. Yeah. Especially I've heard potassium. And that's if you make compost from the pumice from the wine grapes, it's like really potassium rich. So I hear that a lot of people like to use it to replenish. And to add more.
Have you seen some companies doing that?
Yeah, and I've definitely seen it in the process of being made, and it smells really bad. but it's really good what it's doing. So I've seen it.
I remember when I was an intern and we did like the sugar samples. You know how we gotta crush it and and you have like the must, and it's like so I didn't know where to throw it, so I threw it like in like behind the office, and I shouldn't do that.
Oh yeah.
So after 4 days, like my manager was like, "Hey, who throws those?" And I was like, "Oh, it was me."
Yeah.
Can you go pick them up?
You had to pick it up. Oh no, that's rough. Take a good shower when you get home.
No, I took a good shot like of the juice.
Yeah. Oh. I don't know what that would taste. I don't want to know what that tastes like. It was like
vinegar.
Yeah. Yes, the vinegar smell. Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah. So now you go, and in your last semester, how was that? You were like super excited and applying to go to the North Coast?
Yeah.
Only? Okay.
I was only really looking at the North Coast just because, and I really love Lodi, and it's a really beautiful spot. It's actually, if you expand it out, there is like stuff grown on hills and stuff, so it's not just flat. But I wanted to learn more about like how we grow on the coast, or how like if you see like a really expensive bottle of wine in the store, like how are those grapes grown? So I applied for internships, and I got one that started in April, actually. So I wouldn't have even graduated at that point. Like I was still in classes. But I went with it, and because all the classes were still pretty much online, I was able to do it. And I drove out. So after Lodi, I had driven back.
By yourself?
No, I met my boyfriend when I was working in Lodi. So he drove back with me to meet my family too.
Nice.
And then on the way back, my dad drove with me. And that was fun. And we took a different route, so we saw different stuff.
Yeah, that's a long drive to do by yourself.
I've done it 3 times now. So I would never do it by myself though.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it was fun. And so we drove out, and I started my internship here, and I don't know, it was working in Sonoma County, in the Russian River, and I just really fell in love with the place. I think like out of all of the like California weather is really nice, but the Russian River Valley has really nice weather.
And you're close to you have the Russian River, you have the ocean right here.
Yeah. I've never lived this close to the ocean either. I feel like I don't take advantage of it that often. It's like 30 minutes away.
Come on.
But I'm going out more. I was there this weekend. I promise. So yeah, it's pretty fun. This ocean, I will say, that's a big difference between the East Coast and West Coast. It's cold. You know, like we go swimming in the ocean, like in North Carolina, but like I wouldn't just go in my swimsuit. Like you need like a wetsuit to go swimming here.
Yeah.
So
it's like, have you seen those people that go to do the ice bath?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, it actually probably is very similar.
Yeah.
Totally. Not for me, but the river's fun. The river water's nice.
And it was that internship in Narcos was viticulture, like again.
Yeah. So the first one actually was like grower relations focused. So I was visiting like people we contract with properties and sugar sampling.
Yeah.
And then the second one was solely viticulture. So this one I feel like I had more of a focus on just the science of viticulture and just learning more. And I was also working only on like property owned by the company versus other people's property.
And I kind of feel like viticulturist has like a more scientific view of what's going on in the vineyard, right? And as a grower relations, you kind of more to see quality and how the grower is feeling with the relationship within the grower side and company.
I mean, I feel like they grower relations. They still care about the science and they still think about that a lot. But they have a lot of other things to think about as well. Whereas viticulture, we can pretty much focus solely on what the vines need.
So it was like that was your introduced to California Lodi Grower Relations, and then over here in Norcos you start viticulture internship.
Yeah.
And then after that, you prove them that you know everything, that you were ready to change the industry.
Somewhat. I mean, well, what happened was when my internship ended, there wasn't many. Well, I had set this goal for myself that I knew I wasn't gonna have time off. Like I'm entering the professional workforce. I'm not gonna be able to take like the summer off like I used to when I was in college or high school. So I just gave myself basically the entire month of December. And I didn't think about jobs, and I just, celebrated the holidays with my family and all that stuff. And then immediately after that, I started looking for jobs. And I was lucky enough that one opened up around here, and they're like, "Yay, we remember you."
Nice.
So, yeah, came back.
That was 2 years ago or one?
It's one. I actually celebrated my 1 year anniversary here in May. So, yeah, thank you.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what's the best part of being a viticulture? Like in your daily, like there's some times that you'd be like, wow, I really love what I'm doing. What are those moments for you?
I think the moments that people are like the most jealous of, when I talk to people like outside the industry, like my family and friends, they're like, what? You get to ride around on an ATV all day? Like that's your job? And I'm like, yeah, that is probably what people are most jealous of.
No, for you.
Yeah, but for me, I think it's like the views and like especially when the vines start to look really good, like when veraison comes through and we've already shoot and everything and leafed everything and then they're starting to look really pretty and perfect. I really love that. Looking at a well manicured vineyard.
Session of pictures.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. There's so many pictures I have.
And it's a vine smile.
Yeah.
Put it on Instagram.
Smile for the
no filter need.
I literally last year I took so many pictures of Chardonnay because I was like they look so pearly and pretty, and so I would post them to my Instagram. Nice. Yeah.
And do you know now you've been working in the industry probably like for 2 or 3 years? Yeah. No. This would be my 4th season total. Yeah, 4th season. Do you know, have you ever had that experience of try one of the wines that you work in the vineyard? Yeah. I have, yeah. It's really interesting. When I'm trying the wines, because I didn't go to school for enology, I'm trying to listen to what people are saying about them so I can really, because I don't pick up on certain
things like that. And I don't think my palate is very well developed either.
Okay.
So I did get to try some of my wines, but I was like listening to what other people were saying. And also, it's not necessarily mine. Like, there's so many other people that are putting effort into it. It's like even hardly me, you know.
But
I
like,
just had some input.
Exactly,
you know?
and that input matters.
Right?
Know?
Yeah.
It's like all like little. You know how the ants work like all together.
Yeah.
The same thing.
It all creates one thing.
Yeah, without your work in that season, that bottle of wine will be different.
Right.
100%.
Yeah. I'll think about it like that. Yeah.
And okay, just to wrap up this and close, thank you again for your time.
Of course.
Do you have like any story, wine related, vineyard related, that is like, man, if I write a book, I would put this for sure?
Oh, interesting. I think the coolest story recently, I think I had only been working here for a little bit, was in Napa and Sonoma. They have those hot air balloon tour groups that like fly everywhere, and I would always see them in the morning. I think there's less in Napa or in Sonoma than there are in Napa, but I would see them from afar in the morning, and I'd be like, "Wow, that looks so pretty." And like I would be cold, and I'm like, "I bet they're cold up there," like all this stuff. But there was always so far away from anywhere I was working, and one morning I was driving around one of the ranches. And I was rounding around some trees, and as I'm turning, right in front of me is a huge rainbow-colored hot air balloon.
But in the ground, or
it's still in the air, but it's kind of like hovering close to the ground. And I was like, "Whoa, that's insane!" So I took so many pictures because it was right in front of me, and the people in the basket were like waving at me, and I was like, "Hey!" I had a trailer with me though, and I was unsure if they were gonna land, and I wouldn't have been. It's like, I'm still kind of new at driving trailers, so I was like, I don't want to have to like deal with turning around, so I like sped up to get past them. And I texted the ranch manager, and I found out later on that those hot air balloon companies have clearance to land wherever, because they can't really like control where they land. So they can just land wherever. So, but I think it makes people kind of angry when they land in the vineyard. But I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. You should ask them for a ride. I should. Yeah, because I saw that. Honestly, I kind of want to.
Yeah, that would be sick.
I definitely would. I am kind of nervous though. Where I worked in Lodi, there was a skydiving place nearby. And my first day there, the people I was working with, they're like, we were asking like, what should we do? Like, what's good to do around here? They're like, don't do the skydiving. Don't? They said at least the Lodi one, because they said that at least one person dies there every year. And if you think about it, you're skydiving over a ton of metal stakes sticking out of the ground.
What do you think about it?
So I think there's been like accidents
honestly,
like
I never
that.
thought about that.
Yeah, and I think if you have clearance to land the hot air balloon wherever too, it's the same principle. I want to do it, but at the same time I don't know.
You know what's gonna happen after this podcast is released?
What?
That company is gonna go out of business.
They stock tanks.
Yeah.
Just because of me.
It's like a butterfly effect.
I'm just saying, before you get in any large flying object, think about what it's flying over.
You know there's a skydiving company in Cloverdale.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's probably, I don't know if I would do that one either. I would do one like in the desert, because just nothing, you know? But, well, I mean, a cactus. I don't know. Now I don't know. There's no good place to skydive, I guess.
Probably at the beach. So you land in the ocean.
The ocean? You know, there's rocks on.
Oh, come on! No.
Sorry.
No, you know what? Let's go.
Don't go skydiving. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah. And drink wine.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
That's
so, Hannah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, guys.